Ever have a long game of pinball and your flippers get a bit droopy? Do you find your flippers collapsing after heavy use? Do you wish you could perform at your best all night? That might mean you have flipper dysfunction, but don't worry, there's lots of treatment options out there for you. What is flipper dysfunction? Well, flipper dysfunction is commonly referred to as flipper fade. So flipper fade happens when you're playing a really long game and the coils for the flippers build up a lot of heat. That heat causes the coils to lose power, and then you will find yourself not being able to hit ramps and other shots effectively. All right, we're going to try to figure out what actually causes flipper fade. So in a pinball machine, you've got the coil. The coil is dependent on the current flowing through that. The more current, the more magnetic force, and the more power the coil has. The less current, the lower the magnetic force, the lower the power the coil has. If we go to Ohm's law, which is one of the governing equations in electronics, Ohm's law states that the voltage is equal to the current times the resistance. Coil is looking for current, so let's rearrange this equation. Voltage divided by resistance. So as a coil heats up, the copper resistance goes up. So when this goes up, that's going to divide more of the voltage out, and therefore the current will go down. So the net effect is your coils lose power as they get hot. Now there are definitely several ways to cure this, but what we're looking to do is keep the resistance of the wire constant by keeping the temperature moderated. So heat is the problem here. There are several ways to minimize or mitigate the heat. One of the most common ones is a flipper cooling fan. Basically, we're going to put small computer fans near the coils to blow air on them to keep them cooler. That will keep your shots, more robust throughout a long play game. You can get them from a variety of places. These are from Pinball Monk. I've used their product on a lot of different games, but these aren't the first ones we're going to be putting in Winchester Mystery House. I'm going to be trying another product here today. Another thing that affects the power of the shot on a game is typical flipper parts are mass produced. A lot of them are plastic parts, injection molded, so the precision is a little bit loose. So you end up with parts that move around a little bit. The plastic flipper bats will actually compress a little bit. All of those kind of absorb some of the power, reduce the effectivity of the shot. Another way you can get around that is to putting more precise parts in the game. I'm going to be using a precision flipper set from Precision Pinball Products. I'm trying these for the first time. I've never used them before, so I'm definitely interested to see how they perform. So first thing you'll see is the pinball bat is actually made out of aluminum. This means it's not going to deflect. So you're going to be having more of the energy transferred into the ball. The second part of this is I'm going to be using these precision bushings and flipper shafts. There's basically less play in them, so you won't spend time deflecting them while the ball is hitting the flipper. Basically, these two should make the shots more effective. How that cures the heat is I can go into these modern games and turn down the pulse time. The amount of time it fires at high voltage, basically less energy into the coil to do the same amount of shot. Less energy will mean less heat, and it should make the game play longer. So I'm going to put these in first, test them out, and then I'll be doing the flipper coolers later, because we do spend a lot of time playing our games nonstop for hours on end for streaming. So follow along and we'll put these parts in the game. I'm going to work on this flipper mech out on the bench, so I'm going to remove it completely from the game. So the first couple of things you're going to note is there are two sets of wires, one for the coil and one for the switch. So disconnect those. All right, next step is you're going to want to loosen the flipper bat so you can pull it out. You have to pull this out to be able to remove the mech from the game. So it's just a 3/8 inch wrench. Linkage will fall loose. And then get the rest of it out. You're going to get 8 little 1/4 inch screws here. All right, and then this will just drop straight out. So bushing comes out with that. So I have to take this out so I can change out the bushing. So I've got the flipper mech out on the table here, and I'm going to work on doing the install. It's pretty basic tools you need. So I've got the new precision bushings, and you can kind of see there's a little brass sleeve in there, and so the shaft fits in there pretty tight. Doesn't move around a lot, so it's a nice precision fit on there. I also upgraded it to the billet clamps. They also offer a precision pinball. As you can kind of see here, I've been tightening this one in an effort to adjust the flippers quite a bit to really dial in the game. The factory stamped ones kind of just start to bend after a while. So I thought I would upgrade to this new piece so that we get a new part in there with everything. So the goal is now I need to disassemble some of the components so I can change out this bushing and change out that clamp. Okay, that's the bushing out. So you're going to notice two things. One, the screws that go through that actually are tapped into the bottom of the plate. So you tighten those down. Then there's a nut on the backside that is a backup to prevent everything coming out. Once this is in the game, you can't get at these nuts, so you don't want them coming off, so you can make sure everything's good and snugged up. So now we can change out to the precision bushing. All right. New bushing goes in. Original screws. So removing them, they were pretty darn tight, so just be careful you don't strip out the hardware if you can help it. Oh, so I got a problem now. One of these is broke. Okay, I ran into a couple of issues here, and this got nothing to do with the parts I'm trying to put on. The original screws, I don't know if you can see that, they were actually, I don't know, cross-threaded or if the tapped holes weren't good enough, but they were really, really messed up. I was trying to install a couple of them and the bolts actually broke because they're too bad. I ended up running a 632 tap through the holes to clean them up, and then I'm going to use some different screws. So keep in mind if you do this, you take this apart. If your threads are messed up, you need to do some more work, probably run a tap through the plate and get some different screws. Don't reuse those, they will break off and then you'll have to extract them. Not a lot of fun. So let's move on to the bushing. The bushing is going to drop into the original locations, and then the screws are going to screw right into it. So like I said, I ran a tap through these holes, so they're a lot cleaner now. So they just go in nice and butter smooth. So keep a lookout on that if you're doing this at home. Yep, see how nice they went in? They came out really hard. Once I cleaned up the threads, they're going good. So now what you're going to do is snug these up with the Phillips. So get them good and snug. Try not to strip the heads out. And then now on the back side, you're going to put these nuts back on it. These will act as a backup to everything going on upstairs. So if the screws try to loosen up, there's another nut that's in the joint here. And for reference, the nut on the backside is a 5/16 nut, so you'll need a wrench with a 5/16. There you go. Precision bushing is in. Now we're going to move on to the linkage here and swap out to the good linkage. All right, I'm working on the left side, so make sure if you buy these, make sure you find the ones that are labeled left, so that way you get the correct orientation of all the little brackets and parts and pieces on here. This linkage is held on to the main plunger shaft by a bolt and nut, 3/8 and 5/32, so 3/8 wrench. 5/32 Allen here. So This is not going to be overly tight because you don't want to bind up the linkage. So it's not hard to break free. And I do notice the Allen doesn't fit overly well in the bolt. That's probably because it's slightly rounded. This is a drawback to these Allen socket head cap screws, is they're easy to strip and round on the inside. So, you know, be patient. All right, now I've got the nut hand loose. All right, so you'll notice the linkage is on here. It's got a nut, washer, linkage, the center link, and then a washer and the bolt head. So keep that in the same orientation. So all right, so linkage. Pull it off, make note of the way it went, and then grab the new linkage, put it in the same orientation, and let's put it back on. So back through. Okay, now we're going to be reattaching, retightening. Okay. Again, you're not going to completely compress all of this. You want to be able to have this thing freely rotating in there, so that way it doesn't have any binding going on. So there you can see it kind of replaces the original linkage. So now if I grab the new shaft, put it in from the back side, it'll drop right into the holes there. So let's line it all up. And then it'll go up in there. It's a really precise fit. So basically, it's gonna clamp really nicely on there. So this is going to reduce a lot of the slop in the system, and that way more of your coils effort is going into pushing the ball up the play field. You'll have to take this out. I don't believe you can put this in. No, actually I think it'll pass through, so I think we can leave this in place. We can get it all set up. All right, once you've slipped the shaft in and stuff like that, Precision Pinball is going to give you a tool kit, which in there is actually a tool that will let you set the gap between the bushing and the shaft. Basically, it slips in there. You don't want it to be binding on, touching on the top. You don't want this seated all the way down, otherwise it'll add friction to the system. This little tool kind of gives you the ability to tighten it down and set the gap on there. So basically now you can tighten down using this tool. And the nice thing about it is you can tighten it all down here on the workbench as opposed to under the game, which is kind of a big game changer for a lot of people that are bending over under a game. It's like a pain in the rear. So good and snug. The precision fit will be nice. Okay, snugged up. And so this will pull out, and what that does is it gives a little bit of vertical play on that, which will let the flipper and the plunger work in unison with each other. So the last thing you want to do is re-hook up your return spring into the new holes on the linkage that you've got. Okay, it is all in place. Now, another one of the advantages to this system here I've seen so far is the end of stroke switch, is when it tells the computer to stop running full power and run hold current. When that touches, you don't want that to touch when it's all the way in. So if you push the plunger in by the plunger itself, don't push on the linkage. There's some gaps and slop in there. Push that in and you can watch when it actually deactivates. You want it to deactivate probably roughly about 1/8 of an inch on there. So you can kind of set your end of stroke switch gap a little bit better right now. Because what happens is if that is engaging too late, if you get a ball coming down that's hard and it hits the flipper and it knocks it down because it's on hold current, if it's too close, the computer will immediately refire it, and you'll get this little flick up in the game when you're either trying to drop catch it or hold the flipper up and have the ball bounce off it. So you can kind of set all your flipper gaps here. So, kind of make your best guess, but it's usually about 1/8 of an inch travel is when you want it to disconnect, and then that should give you that. You'll probably end up fine-tuning it a little bit in the game once you get it all in there and working, but this will give you a good guide. So when you're doing your flipper adjustment here, or sorry, end of stroke switch adjustment, it's good to have this little tool around. It's a tool you can buy at Pinball Life or any other places. It's basically a little bent arm with a tiny little slice. You can probably not see it very well on there, but what that does is it goes around the flipper end of stroke switch or any other leaf spring in the game, and you can easily tweak it and bend it. So what I've done is I've set it to where I get about 1/8 of an inch travel, and that's about when the switch disconnects, which will tell the computer to go back to full power if the flipper button is still pressed. Also, anytime you're done with one of these assemblies, check your movement. Make sure there's no binding or anything, that it moves and returns really nicely. So now this is ready to put back in the game, and then we can go upstairs and adjust the flippers. All right, let's put the updated Mech back in the game. And so, as we discovered when we were putting this on the bench, you can assemble the entire mechanism underneath, and it's just going to drop up in there. So find the hole, line it up, slide it up in, and then put the original screws back in the original holes. Again, these are 1/4 inch hex heads. Okay, once you've got them all kind of snugged up a little bit, give them a little turn, but don't go overzealous on this. These are wood. You're screwing into wood, so you can easily destroy the wood by over tightening it. So just be careful. Unfortunately, it's kind of a feel thing. All right, Coil Mech is back in the game. Now we're going to want to do is we're going to hook up the wiring again. So find, green and white to green and white. So it's back to the same connectors. The coil connector is going to be in here as well, and it is right there. So find the original connectors, connect them back up. All right, underside's done. We can go back into the top side and actually adjust these flippers. Well, this is what it looks like with the flipper Mech installed compared to the original. So the original flipper is here. This one's got a post that sticks up. Please note that the shaft comes with the screw already kind of installed in the top of it. So you're going to want to remove it, keep it out of there. Now, here's where it kind of gets a little nifty. We got to get our hand under here so we can push up on that. But they actually include this neat little flipper adjustment tool. You actually put that in the gap that we lined it up, and then you can line it up where you think. So on Barrels of Fun's Winchester Mystery House, there are 2 holes that actually line this up. So you basically want to line it up with that hole, and then you drop the flipper into place, and it should fit in this gap right here. There's a little, you might have to pull it out a little bit. So just push it in, and it'll help you align it. So you can see there's the hole lined up at the hole. And this is a way to do that. So this whole thing can be adjusted from the top side, which is what makes it kind of clever. Instead of being underneath, trying to fiddle with the linkage, keep opening it, bending it, tweaking it, this lets you do it straight from the top without touching anything underneath. So if you find you don't like the flipper angle, you can readjust it pretty easily. They include all the little tools, Allen wrenches and stuff you need to install and put it together. But also later on, when you need to install this, you need to pull this back out, and then there's a little de-installation tool they have. I won't be showing you that today because I'm going to be bolting it in and giving this a try. So once you're happy with the location, put your nut, screw, and let's party. Okay, now you can pull out the installation tool, and this thing is lined right up at where I wanted to line it up. So now I can put the flipper rubber on it, and then we can actually test the game and see how much this improves the shot, because the right shot on this game is awful tough, and when it gets any bit of heat into it, it won't go all the way up it. So hoping that this cures that. We're also going to be doing the flipper fans as well, just as a belt and suspenders. All right, I'm going to show you how to do the adjustment up top. When I first put that on, I didn't quite get everything perfectly lined up. I'm up a little bit, which is making the right shot a little tough. So what I'm going to do is first off, remove this screw. It's basically this one. Keep that screw. You're going to need it in a second. In the kit, he's got a little block plate and a couple of screws. This is how you actually remove it from the game. Let me find the right Allen wrench for this. All right, now I get the right Allen wrench, and you put these two screws in. It doesn't need to be tightened down. These can be basically like just lightly snugged. And so in this next one, you're going to take this screw right on the top with a Phillips screwdriver. You're going to extract the flipper bat with this tool. So basically it screws into the original hole. And then you basically keep tightening, and it will pop. It'll pop right loose, because this is held on basically with a taper and then a screw in the middle. This way it gives you really, really nice fine adjustments on that. So now you can pull that out. You can pull the little screws back out, put the flipper back on, and get it lined up to where you want. Oops, I have the wrong one in my hand. So basically now you can just remove the extraction tool from the flipper bat, and then we can go to reinstalling the flipper bat in the correct position, since I didn't quite have it where I wanted it. That's the nice thing that I found about these things, is you can really dial it in, and you're not messing up the mechanisms underneath. All right, so now what you're gonna do is you're gonna get it lined up. There is that flipper tool that we can use again as well. So basically, going to go up underneath the gap, in the gap, but I don't want to remove my flipper rubber, so this normally needs the rubber pulled off. I'm just going to line it up the way I want this time around. Going to put in the screw and get this really lined up the way I want, and I'll move it down a little. Okay, now I've got it where I lined where I want. I can retighten this back up. Okay, there. Now I've got it slightly drooped a little more. Should make that right shot a little bit better to hit at the sacrifice of backhand and stuff up here. That's not a big problem, because you can easily hit from that flipper as well. All right, let's give that a spin and see if that right shot becomes a little more obtainable. It was doable before, but I felt it was still a little off the tip of the flipper. Now, one thing I hadn't talked about yet is, in this game, this upper left flipper is one of the shorty flippers, and it hits a lot of these shots. So you got all the key ones over here, but also this shot, I don't think it works that well. I think the problem is it's off the tip of the flipper. So most of the time you whiff it and you hit this target, or you hit it too soon and you hit one of these targets or the post and stuff in there. Now during one of the, let's see, which is it? Let me rotate this to a different location. So in a particular mode, there'll be this upper flipper shot over here to the stairs to nowhere. I find that 1 in 20, 30 shots maybe make it, because it rattles quite a bit in here. It just isn't lined up with the short flipper and the factory location on that. So what I'm trying is, Precision Pinball makes an upper left flipper, but it's also like a little bit longer. So this should put it to where it's a little bit more on the flat of the flipper, and it should make these shots at least more repeatable. You know, it's a tough shot regardless, but I think the problem is it just is almost unhittable. You know, ours could be an early game build issue, but yeah, I think the slightly longer flippers will help us out, because then we'll be hitting on the flat spot instead of the tip. Because what happens is, it's on the tip, it doesn't take much change in velocity for the tip to throw the ball off this direction, or if it's on the flat, it's hitting the key targets here. So I think this is going to help out quite a bit in making this a little more approachable for me, Ed, or anybody else who plays our game. So we'll let you know how it is once we get this all put back together and streaming it. All right, I put the playfield back down, balls are back in the game. I have reset the flipper power back to default. That way we're starting from scratch. So the whole goal will be, in order to minimize heat, is we're gonna start from a point, then we're gonna back down the pulse time to as low as possible and still hit this shot over on the right side. This is probably one of the toughest shots to hit in this game from that flipper. It's very wide and it's pretty steep. And if basically minimize how much pulse time in order to hit that shot, that will minimize the amount of heat that's in this flipper. All right, let's give that a shot. All right. So now what I want to do is get some stuff that triggers that. Because this is what we kind of want to, this is even steeper, so hopefully we can get that to a point. There we go. So at factory coil settings, I can actually hit that. All right, so it seems like to me at factory coil settings, they feel good, because we are always having struggling. In fact, on the old setup, I actually upped the coil power to hit that, and now I'm back to stock and it feels good. So yeah, so I think because I put it back to stock coil power and I'm able to hit this and get onto the upper part of the ramp, so I think it's really good. Before, I actually raised the power in order for that one to hit that, but then also raising it puts more heat into it, and eventually they would sag out and I wasn't able to hit that shot. So I think these have recovered some of that energy, so I think they're pretty good. Now what I'll do is move on to doing the rest of these games, or rest of these flippers in this game, just so we have a consistent look through that. It looks really good. These look really neat. I'll probably just switch out to some green rubber at some point when I order it, to kind of tie in with the green on that. But I think it's gonna work. When I actually add the flipper coolers to that, we should be able to play for hours nonstop without any flipper fade. All right, let's give this a shot. So left flipper to right ramp. It's almost the tip of the flipper shot. I've got it slightly aimed at the little hole in the playfield slightly below it. So hopefully they'll make the help shot and this a lot more obtainable. So everything on the right side should be a little bit better aligned with this. Nice thing was is I can do it right on top. Oh yeah. Now that feels really good. All right, let's see if we can trap the ball. We can still trap it. And I can still backhand it. And yeah, so yeah, that's it. So now I should be able to play with the power a little bit more. Maybe down another notch or two to reduce some of the things. Oh, barely. I see something I gotta adjust. Oh, that's not gonna be fun. All right, this is a glass off one. So I see some stuff I need to adjust on the game. And that when it goes forward doesn't quite go forward enough. I need to move the rail back just a little, but that's an adjustment I can do later. Well, the installation is complete. I've got these matrix style precision flippers in the main 3 positions. So they are full length flippers. Kind of cool looking with the trellis shape in there. I went with blue because it kind of matches the aesthetic of the game. Eventually I'm going to swap out to a green rubber or something like that. Right now I just got the stock rubbers back on it. Be anxious to see how they play. Okay, the fourth flipper in this game, the upper left flipper, is actually one of the short flippers. I actually went with a solid top version of the precision flipper in this location, specifically so the player can see it better. It's sort of hidden, and you can see it pretty well with the white, but since I went with the blue, it's a little bit darker, so I chose the solid top so it's more visible. So the player can actually see what's going on. I was finding myself having to lean up over the game to try to line up this shot because I'm a little bit shorter than Ed is, but I thought the top would be better being solid. That completes the installation of the precision flipper system in our Winchester Mystery House. The reduced deflection and the more precise shots should make this game a little bit more fun to play. A lot of the shots are really tight, and I think the little bit improved accuracy will help out quite a bit. Whether that helps with the flipper coil fade problem is yet to be determined. You'll see that on stream at some point in the near future. Thanks for watching this video, and that completes phase 1 of our attempts to cure flipper fade on our Winchester Mystery House machine. Watch out for video 2 coming in the near future, where I will be putting Pinball Monk cooling fans on this game as well. We're trying to make it really robust for stream play since we stream 2 to 3 hours at a time. We stream on Twitch and on YouTube on Wednesday nights and Sunday nights, so look for us then. Also, like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll know when we go live, and also when we've got new videos coming up. But again, thanks for watching.